Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. I might have flown too close to the sun because I'm doing something a little crazy this time. You've seen me do the top 10 third movies, and fourth movies, and fifth movies, sixth movies, seventh movies, eighth movies, 9 movies, and finally 10th movies. But now we're getting really crazy. I'm doing the top 10 11th movies in a franchise. Now you might be saying to yourself, how many franchises could have really gone to 11? Well, with being a little creative and shifting some things around, I did find 34 franchises that hit the 11th movie. So yeah, I had a few to pick from, and so I narrowed it down to my top 10 favorites. So a couple rules before we get into this. I am going chronologically, not canonically, so the 11th movie that came out, not the where it takes place in said franchise. Hopefully that makes sense. Rule number 2, these are the best 11th movies as compared to other 11th movies. Some of these might not even be that great of movies, but compared to some of the garbage that's the 11th, these are pretty good. And finally, of course, third rule, these are just my opinion. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below, and if you're nice about it, I might respond. But let's get into it.
Number 10, Fast X.
So yeah, this hits one of my rules pretty hard. Fast X wasn't the best Fast and Furious movie. I thought it was overall pretty good movie, but the franchise has been on a little bit of a slide down. Now first off, Fast X, of course meaning Fast 10, but this is the 11th Fast and Furious movie because in this house we count Hobbs and Shaw as a movie. So Fast X, I thought it was had some really good stuff going for it, some good action scenes. I loved them essentially just playing racquetball in the middle of Venice. That was a lot of fun. Jason Momoa had a lot of fun in this role, being just kind of overly over the top and villainous. That was a lot of fun. And, it was just fun to get the group back together. Ending on a cliffhanger was kind of weird. We'll see if that ever resolves itself. But overall, this is a pretty fun movie. It's, just a fun action movie. Not too much to think about here.
Never accept death when suffering is owed.
Number 9, Freddy vs. Jason.
So for those of you watching a lot of my videos, you would know I put this in my top 10 8th movies of all time because this is the 8th Freddy Krueger movie, but it's also the 11th Jason Voorhees movie. So let's talk about it on the side of Jason. This is a very solid movie overall and one of my favorite versus movies of all time. In a word of a Friday the 13th, it's okay. It's not one of the best. It doesn't do anything too crazy. And then introducing that Jason is somehow afraid of water kind of came out of nowhere. And also leaving out Kane Hodder, who was Jason in the previous 3 movies to this, was a little lame. But overall, this is still a really fun movie with some really great kills. And it's just like a love letter to both fans of Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. So yeah, I think this is still a very solid movie and well placed at number 9.
Why won't you die?
Number 8, Halloween 2018.
So this might be the first time I put a legacy sequel on one of these because, it's a bit of a new thing. However, Halloween 2018 was very surprising. It was really good. Of course, this movie ignores all continuity except for the very first movie, so it's this weird branching timeline of the Halloween movies, of what movies count and what don't. And it's actually kind of fun to follow that. But yeah, this was a really good movie I love what they did with the mask. I love bringing Michael Myers back to being just a crazy guy with a mask. There's no sort of mysticism or anything weird to him. He's just this driven, crazy killer, and that was always really awesome about him. And that's what fits this movie really well. And it just had some really cool scenes, some really good actors in the roles, people that you want to see survive rather than making a bunch of assholes that you hope die. And I think that really felt out this movie, and it just made it a really solid movie. Now, does it compare to what comes after? We'll see next year if I do the top 10 12th movies. But I think this is overall a really good movie and very surprising rebirth to the Halloween franchise.
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him. Get out! Go home! Get inside!
Number 7. Avengers Age of Ultron.
So at first, I really didn't like this movie. It was coming off of, the hype of the very first Avengers movie, as well as following Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier, some of the top best movies in the MCU. So at first, it was a little weak, but on rewatches, it got a lot better. I think they did some really cool stuff with this movie. I really liked the voice that they got for Ultron. He was creepy and awesome. Although the one downside I do have is that they gave Ultron lips, which sounds like a weird complaint, although I think Ultron would have been way creepier if it was just this gaping maw with sound coming out of it, and it would make it less human, more creepy, and I think that'll work better. But overall, a really good Avengers movie, obviously not the best, and I like how retroactively they made this movie better. They made a lot link to this movie, and that this was kind of sowing the seeds to the Avengers breaking up and eventually leading to everything that happened in Infinity War and Endgame. And so that was really cool that retroactively this became a very important movie. But overall, it was a very solid Avengers movie, one of the top tier MCU movies. Probably, a B or a C, but still really good and even better every time I rewatch it. So yeah, Avengers Age of Ultron is still really good stuff.
You're all puppets. Tangled in strings.
Number 6. The Death of Superman.
So I don't know if I ever talked about the DC AMU on any of these before, and that's my bad. I should have been talking about these because most of these movies are really awesome. For those not in the know, the DC AMU is the DC Animated Movie Universe, which is different than the DC Animated Universe, which is the TV shows. This one it was a set of movies that had its own continuity that worked within themselves and had a lot of the same voice actors, a lot of the same directors, and it was just a really good set of straight-to-DVD movies that were all just very solid. And The Death of Superman was one of those. It was just awesome. I love this Superman and what they do with him in this universe in general, but actually doing The Death of Superman was great. They did it very properly. They even built up The Death of Superman, which the DCEU could have taken some notes on, where you actually, need to give us some time to like this Superman before you kill him, but I digress. They did just an awesome job. The animation is great, and just seeing Superman wailing on Doomsday and back and forth and how this affects the universe, it was just really awesome, really well done, and one of the main ones that I like going back to and watching again. It was really awesome. So thumbs up. If you haven't gotten into the DC AMU, I highly suggest it.
Can't go back after that thing. It's suicide.
I have to get back to work. This city needs me.
Number 5. Gamra 3. Revenge of Iris.
So over the last few years, I really got into kaiju movies, and one of the main franchises I got into was Gamra, specifically the 90s Gamra trilogy. And let me tell you, they are all awesome. Gamra 3 Revenge of Iris was just a really, really good continuation and end of this trilogy. I like how they built up this new monster and how it's controlled by this, girl that doesn't like Gamra, which Gamra is like the friend of the children, but, she has problems with him because, he destroyed her city and killed her parents. And so she raises this monster and it goes after Gamra, and it has some great battles. I think it's a pretty solid mix between CG and guys in rubber suits. I think it really works really well. Gamra is always a lot of fun. Specifically, this trilogy was very solid. I know there's one more Gamra movie after this one. I think it's in its own continuity separate from this. But yeah, I hope we get more Gamra, and I hope they bring Gamra into the Monsterverse. That would be awesome. But yeah, if you need some good kaiju movies, Gamra 3 Revenge of Iris, really solid, really awesome.
天地火それ滅びなイリス殺して
Number 4, The Mummy.
So this is one of the franchises that I bent the rules on a little bit. If you didn't know, Universal had their own set of mummy movies back in the 30s and 40s that had their own continuity and had sequels. And then in the 60s and 70s, Hammer made their own mummy movies. And then, of course, now we have the modern mummy movies, or at least the 90s had these mummy movies. I think they kind of count. Like, The Mummy's not based on a book or anything specific. It was just, people loving the idea of digging up mummies at the time that they came out with the first one, and they kind of went with it, and what if the mummy was alive, and blah, blah, blah. So they really worked with that. And I'm going to count it, whatever. So the first Brendan Fraser mummy movie is amazing. It's a classic. It's just awesome. They go in more of an action-adventure style rather than going with the horror aspect, although there is some really horror scenes in this. But yeah, it takes it in a more action-adventure way, and I like that a lot. This movie's a lot of fun. I watched it so much growing up, and it's just a classic movie. There's so much you can say about it, but overall it's just awesome. It's got some effects that really stand up, and it's just a great action movie. If you want something Indiana Jones-esque but don't want to watch The Dial of Destiny, The Mummy, it's great.
You have unleashed a creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years. It is the bringer of death. He will never stop.
Number 3, Kong, Skull Island.
No, the Monsterverse hasn't made it to 11 movies, but this is the 11th Kong movie. Told you I'm bending the rules a little bit. Kong Skull Island is great. I love what they do with the setting, relating it back to Vietnam and bringing a lot of that iconography into it, as well as just what they do with the monsters and the designs. Like the Skull Walkers were crazy and awesome. It had some amazing scenes, specifically the smoke bomb scene. All the actors are great in this. Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, Loki, they're all just so good in this. And then out of nowhere, John C. Reilly pops into the middle of this, just adding more, fun and adventure to this, and just really related a lot to building this monster universe, and as well as just being one of the best Kong movies. I'm going to go out on a ledge and say that. This is at least the number 2 or number 3 best Kong movie of all time, and it's just a solid monster movie with some great effects, some great acting, and just a lot of fun world building. Just some really good stuff. I personally wrote it off when I first heard about it, but after seeing it, it's awesome and I love it.
That's Kong. He's king around here. Kong's a pretty good king. Keeps to himself mostly. Well, you don't go into someone's house and start dropping bombs unless you're picking a fight.
Number 2, Deadpool 2.
So So this one is not cheating, because this one definitely takes place within the X-Men movie continuity. You even see James McAvoy and his band of X-Men in a little throwaway gag, and I say it counts, so it counts. Deadpool 2 is awesome. Is it better than the first Deadpool? No. Is it still great? Yes. I think it's got some great gags in it, some great action, some lot of fun. Doing some characters a lot of justice in this was really great. Like Cable was amazing in this, as well as doing a really good version of the Juggernaut, which we missed out on in earlier X-Men movies. So yeah, it's just overall a great comic book movie, a lot of love to comic books, a lot of accurate costumes, and just a lot of fun, a lot of gags. It doesn't really drain on you with some of the humor. It actually works out really well, but it's also got a lot of heart to it. It's got a lot of sad moments, some beautiful moments, and it's just overall done really, really well. And I love this. I can't wait to see Deadpool and Wolverine later this year and how it ties into the MCU. But overall for Deadpool, a great movie. Yeah, it's awesome.
And that is why Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants is pure pornography.
Oh, God, I wish I finished college.
Number 1, Star Trek.
And here we go, launching into space where no man has gone before, rebooting a franchise and actually making it good. Here we go, Star Trek. It is great. A lot of Star Trek nerds wrote this movie off because it looked too cool, too sharp, too smooth, but then they were turned around right away. How it ties into actual Star Trek continuity and what you would see in some Star Trek stuff with time travel and alternate realities and things like that. Kicking off the whole Calvin universe was awesome, making it so we can have this young team, but also give them new adventures. This was a really good way to do that, and just it did bring it back to more relatable for a better regular audience, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it just had some really fun adventures and some really great scenes. Sulu sword fighting, Spock, kicking some ass, and just overall some really great stuff. And we got Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, got Zoe Saldana in this. Everyone is just great in this and just picks up the roles. And really, it's a love letter to the original Star Trek series, but also it's its new own thing, and I love it. And I think they just really tied everything together and made a really solid, great movie.
Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes. He saved 800 lives, including yours. I dare you to do better. Enlist in Starfleet.
So there you go, the top 10 11th movies in a franchise. Yeah, this one was a little crazy, a little bit hard to narrow down some stuff, but overall there are some gems. You'd be surprised that there is some good stuff that comes out with franchises that run that long, and I was surprised to see what I found. But yeah, there you go. What did you think of my list? Let me know in those comments below. And stay tuned. Maybe next year I'll do the top 10 12th movies in a franchise. We'll see how that pans out. But I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.